You might you might notice I'm a little bit happy, and it's because my friend is here with us today, Matt Wunderli. He has been one of our longtime supporters of Snow College students and a dear friend. Matt Wunderli is the director at World Trade Center Utah, a seasoned tech entrepreneur, and the founder and CEO of multiple ventures. With experience in private equity and venture capital, he is also a geopolitical analyst and macroeconomic enthusiast, bringing a strategic perspective to his work. An aspiring diplomat, Matt holds an undergraduate degree from the University of Utah, graduate degrees from ESCEM in Poitiers, France. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Somewhere in France. And has completed entrepreneurship masters and an EMBA from Cambridge University in the UK. Matt has lived and worked in Los Angeles, Uruguay, the UK, and France, making him a frequent traveler and global thinker. In his free time, he is a former rugby player and an avid skier and enjoys life in Utah with his wife and 4 children. So please welcome Matt Wunderli.
I did, and it feels really weird walking down the hall as you applaud. It's good. The aisle. That was. I need my walk-up song. That's true. Russ is a dear friend. He's practically family. He's a little older than I am, so he's more of an older brother. But he has less gray hair. I'm impressed. That picture, by the way, I feel like it's a lot of echo. You guys getting some echo? Oh, kind of loud. I'll pull this down a little bit. Is that better? Maybe not. Maybe it's that. That picture, by the way, was like 30 pounds lighter. Whew, tell you what, stresses of being an entrepreneur put on the weight. My body holds on to cortisol stress. And some people lose weight. I put it on. I think this word is actually quite timely. Risk. We're going to dive into a lot of risk. I don't like to deal with PowerPoint presentations. I hate PowerPoint with a passion. And unfortunately, in this line of business, it's almost required all the time to pitch for money, for capital. Venture capitalists are obsessed with the pitch deck. And so I hate them. I can't stand them. So I told Russ, I'll be as engaging as possible without having a visual. In fact, we're going to use some of the whiteboard. But before we go into too much detail, raise your hand if you're from Utah. Is that literally everybody? Or no? Raise your hand if you're not from Utah. Okay. Oh, okay. It's more than I thought. So Utahns, put your hands back up. Put your hand down if you're not from Central Utah. Central Utah, let's define it as Payson to Cedar City. Okay, so quite a few Central Utahns. Now, if you're not from Utah, put your hands back up. I see a CU Buff fan here. All right, forgive you. You a Shador fan? Coach Prime? All right, good. Okay, good. So if you're not from Utah, how did you hear about Snow? How did you guys hear about Snow College? Okay, sports, athletics. What else? What other reasons? What brought you to Utah from outside of Utah? In Kenya. Oh, that's fascinating. Are you from Kenya? Congo. Excellent. Well, welcome. Well, welcome. That's fascinating to me because my current role, I'll just kind of dive into that first and foremost with as the director of the World Trade Center Utah. We are pretty much the governor's de facto trade ministry for the state of Utah. And so our job is to really take Utah businesses and help them succeed internationally. So if you're looking to go do, you're exporting or you're importing, you want to expand into new markets, but you don't know where to look, that's what we're for. So the governor does a lot of diplomatic relations. He has 2 trade missions every year. He takes a delegation of Utah businesses. In a couple of weeks, we're headed to Japan and Korea with Governor Cox. And when you go on a business trip with the governor, opens up a lot of trade opportunities. It's pretty cool. Plus, you get to fly, pretty comfortably. When you go to the governor, you get to do some cool things and meet some cool people. So my day-to-day job, aside from my startup, and I'll come to that, that's the more relevant piece, but I'm going to tie them together. My day-to-day job, I call it a corporate job. I don't like corporate jobs very much, but this one's interesting. This one's really interesting because I get to meet diplomats, ambassadors, consul generals, trade ministers from all over the world. And I get to travel all over the world. Just got back from, in fact, my colleague who knows Russ quite well was just down in Peru. He met with the president down there, had a mining delegation, Utah mining companies looking to explore new mining opportunities in Peru. Really cool stuff. I meet with diplomats from all over the world. So the contacts are fascinating and the learning experiences are even better. Now, let's put that aside for a second. Come back to my other role as the founder and CEO of a company called Pando Analytics, but also a partner in WPSS. So Pando Analytics, tech focused. We do a lot of AI, analytics, and reporting in the media space. So if you're looking at Netflix or Hulu, all the reporting is done behind the screen, stuff you don't see. We'll get into the technicalities if you want at lunch. But WPSS is more focused on mergers and acquisitions. Who's interested in finance? Okay, handful. For you who are not interested in finance, why are you not interested in finance? Do numbers scare you? We got some nodding back here. Why do numbers scare you so badly? Yeah, you just don't like, you just don't like them. Why is that? Okay. Okay. There's a difference between accounting and finance, by the way. Just make sure you understand the differences. You know, one's an art, one's a science. Although accountants will probably argue they're both, right? Don't listen to accountants unless they're actually doing your taxes. Who else is afraid of numbers or corporate finance? Doesn't want to do it. Don't be bashful, guys. This is more engaging. Why is that? That's interesting. Programming, software engineering, development, coding, very meticulous, very thoughtful, right? Why are they not the same to you?
And working with numbers and working with variables to me are two very different things. I'd much rather work with the variables than the numbers.
We'll have to have a conversation about that later. Accounting, I agree with you, but finance, it's an art. It's an interpretation, very much what you just described. So entrepreneurship really has to come, it comes down to all of these things. So you have to know finance, you need to know accounting, you need to know organizational behavior, you need to understand what entrepreneurship really means. So let me ask you this. Let's see, who do I want to pick on? I know someone back there with his head nodding off. It's okay, I get it. It's middle of the day. I'm tired too. I just drove 2 hours. We're good. I get it. I'm with you. Who can tell me what entrepreneurship means or entrepreneur? Anyone know what entrepreneur means? Where it comes from? Okay, I'll take it. Take it. Who else? Okay, I like that. Providing a solution to a problem. Who else? Any French speakers in here? I think I heard a French speaker earlier while I was hanging out. What do you think it means? Break it down into 2 words. The etymology of entrepreneur. Okay. Fond. Exactly. Take between. Or if you look at it in English, the direct translation would be undertake. So as an entrepreneur, you're undertaking risk. That's what an entrepreneur is. And your job is to solve a problem. Right here. You identify a problem and you solve it. So let's get into this a little bit. This is where I like to get more academic by nature. What's the best color to use, Russ? Everyone can see blue, probably. Blue for the Badgers. Is blue a primary color at this place? Blue and yellow? Blue and orange? Sorry, not yellow. Okay, so every entrepreneur works within this given set of means. You have a given set of means, right? Who's got a business idea already? What's your idea?
Okay. So I've actually covered a workout with we take wool from sheep
Okay.
and turn it into a pellet, and it makes amazing fertilizer.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Okay, so you've got a given set of means, right? You understand what your hypothesis is, taking sheep wool and turning it into fertilizer, essentially, right? I mean, that's very watered down for a less intelligent guy like myself compared to you, right? That's very impressive. I'd like to know more about that. But you've got this given set of means right here. okay, your input. But your output could go in multiple different directions. You don't know what your business is going to be because you're right here, right? Let's take a simpler version just for use case or case study sake. Let's just say you're a chef and you make really good curry, okay? I know all the ingredients that need to go into curry. I can make a really mean curry. I can't, but just assume I can. I'm really good at toast and eggs. That's about it. So I can make a really good curry, but I don't know if that's going to be a restaurant. It can turn into a franchise. Is that a food truck? Is that a frozen meal service? Is that going to be go through distribution to retail? Multiple different outputs, right? So that's what you have to understand first and foremost. You have a given set of means. With each of these given set of means, you have multiple hypotheses, H1, H2, H3. These are hypotheticals. These are your assumptions. So you've identified a problem. What's the problem you're trying to solve?
No organic fertilizer. People like organic fertilizer.
People like organic fertilizer.
Want to use chemicals inside their potted plants.
Why is that?
A lot of people are worried what it'll do to their health.
Okay, great. So you're trying to eliminate the chemicals in the fertilizer. Say my 2-year-old daughter, I caught her, maybe it's just my genes, I don't know, but I caught her in our garden eating dirt. So Russ's kids would never do that. My kids definitely do. So you're eating dirt. Yeah, maybe there's some chemicals in that fertilizer and that could hurt her health. Is that what you're saying, potentially? Or animals or livestock? Okay, there's H1. That's your first hypothesis. Your second hypothesis, what could it be? Maybe that doesn't work out. Maybe there's too much competition, the market's saturated, the price, you can't get the prices to work, your supply chain's not efficient. What would be the second hypothetical? We're going to flesh your business plan out today.
Maybe another hypothetical is, I guess this is kind of going along with it, but people want to be environment friendly.
Okay,
So go green.
going green, that's more of an outcome, right? But the problem you're solving, think of it, what's the problem that I'm solving first? So and then you come up with the third one and the fourth and the fifth and so on and so forth. Each one of these hypotheses, you want to test. You have to test every single one of them. Assumptions will kill your business idea. Assumptions will kill your business model. Sometimes you'll get lucky. Sometimes you won't. More often than not, you will not get lucky. And that's really the idea behind this word risk. Now, you're undertaking a lot of risk. That's entrepreneur, undertake, right? So you go through these hypotheses, you settle on H2. This is the one that we want to go down because this is proving to be the path to least resistance. I can monetize this, I can get product market fit. Awesome. What this is called is effectual reasoning. Why is that important? Why would that be effectual? Think of cause and effect. Where do you want to go with your startup? Where do you want to go with your business? Where are you trying to go? Every company, when you launch that product, you want to go from test phase to grow phase. Sometimes it's called scalability. Anyway, whatever. Grammar wasn't my forte. My dad was a writer and I still couldn't do it. All right. So, scalability. When you get to growth, what do you think this is called? If this is effectual, what's this? I told you, I gave you the hint a second ago. Cause and effect. So if this is effect, causal, this is causal, right? So every company wants to get to causal eventually because that's how you scale. Those are the processes, the systems in place. Those are the methods, that's the methodology you use to become more efficient with your business. So you start here, you've got all these hypotheses, you test them all, you find the one that works best, you get somebody to actually pay you money for your product. That's awesome, okay? $20 a bag, whatever it is. Okay, you make the margins work, the numbers work. Numbers are vastly important, you guys, I promise. If you don't know Excel, learn it. Learn Excel. Get it to become your best friend. I hated it too. Look, I was a political science undergrad. I hated Excel. I thought I was going to be doing research and writing papers my whole career. Not true, okay? I'm in Excel almost every single day, and you have to learn the formulas if you want to really build a business. It's of utmost importance. So anyway, you've tested it. You've got people paying you now for the product. Now you want to scale. You got to put processes in place, systems in place. That's causal. So remember that. Effectual reasoning. Given set of means, here's your input. Find the output or the hypothesis that works best. Now, let's drill down into here, this piece right here. What do we mean by this? Finding the right value, the value proposition. Who's heard of value proposition before? Sam, what's a value proposition? Value you're proposing, essentially, right? Exactly, right. So what's the value add? What added value are you providing with fertilizer or with the code that you're going to write eventually, right? You start a technology company, you get into some machine learning, build a great platform. What's the value add you guys are providing for someone like us who would actually pay money to use it? You've identified your persona, you've identified your target buyer. What's the value? Think about that for a second. What is the value that you're going to give to me? What am I paying you for? Now, who knows who Clayton Christensen is? Anybody? Come on, Russ knows him. Who's Clay Christensen? Who is he? Clay Clayton, same thing. Clay is short for Clayton. Former Harvard professor. Okay, what else? Business professor at Harvard. Great researcher in business. Who else? Or anything to add to that?
Is an entrepreneur in my. I had an entrepreneurship class, and the role that he played he's a scholar in growing business and trying ideas.
Yes, exactly. Both of you, you nailed it, right? There's two things here that I want you to actually, if you get the time, and I'll remind Russ, two things you need to read. There's one's a framework, one's a book. The Innovator's Dilemma is the book that he wrote, phenomenal book. The second is the framework. The framework's called Jobs to Be Done. Okay, this is more of a marketing framework, but it helps you understand how to frame out your business model and how to actually take your business or product to scale or to market. Okay, jobs to be done. Jobs to be done. What do you think that means? Talked about it a second ago. Like you're going to market, you've got a product, you're solving a problem. What is the job to be done? What do you think that means? I, as a consumer, am hiring your company to do a job that I need done, right? So if I'm a general contractor and I have been hired to drill a 1/4-inch drill or a hole in this wall, I'm going to hire Black & Decker or maybe some better tool. I don't know. It's been a while. I'm not a general contractor, but I'm going to hire Black & Decker with a 1/4-inch drill bit to drill that hole. That's the job I'm hiring them to do, right? So that's how you figure out the best value to provide your customers. What is the job they're hiring you to do, right? So think about that. When you get into building a product or your service, what is the job your customer is going to pay you to do? What do you want? What value are you going to offer them? What do they want? What do they need? Not as much a want, but what's the need? Okay, so that's jobs to be done. That's one framework. The other framework I want you to think about when you're building your company model, your business model, or your company, or ideating, think about two things when you're thinking of the value proposition. The one is this a mosquito bite that I'm providing, or is it a shark bite? So if I get bit by a mosquito, I can run into CVS or the local pharmacy, pay $5, get some lotion, rubbing on my itch. It's good, right? Margins on that are really bad, and you have to have economies of scale. There's a lot of barriers to entry. Is this terminology all familiar with you guys? Barriers to entry, and okay. If it's not, ask. It's okay. Ask. This is a learning environment. So, a shark bite. If I'm surfing off the coast of California somewhere, and great white comes up and bites my leg off, what do you think I'm going to do? Just sit in the ocean and bleed to death? Let it tear me apart? I mean, hope not. I'm a terrible swimmer. I can't even get up on a surfboard, Russ. I mean, so I probably would die. But let's just assume don't die, okay? I get onto shore. How much money do you think I'm going to pay the OR to actually fix my leg or to stop the bleeding and save my life? It's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars. There's a real pain there, right? So the mosquito bite, just a nuisance. There's a lot of competition in that market. It's just a nuisance. I can live without the lotion. It'll go away in a couple days. The shark bite pain, I cannot live without my leg or loss of blood. I need to pay a lot of money. That's a big pain. So identifying that pain with your potential consumers, understanding their jobs that they're going to hire you to do is of utmost importance. And that's going to actually minimize and mitigate tremendously your risk. Okay, this is very risky. Starting a business is very risky. So now that we've got a lot of the academia out of the way, let's just get real for a minute. I've started multiple businesses. I'm 40 years old, still younger than Russ. That gives you an idea of how old Russ is. Sorry, Russ. Only by a few years, though. It's not that many. I've got a family, meaning I'm not the sole breadwinner, but I was for a long time. My wife's actually an entrepreneur now, too, which is great. She runs her own business. What are the risks that I'm undertaking as a sole or former sole breadwinner of my family? 4 kids. It's quite a lot of responsibility, don't you think? A lot of responsibility. I live in Holiday. Holiday, Utah is not a very cheap place to live. Very mature neighborhood. You even know where Holiday, Utah is? Sam does. He used to live up near there. Anyone from Salt Lake County? Some of you guys. Okay, it's not a very cheap place to live. It means you've got to perform. Okay, so I started multiple businesses, and the first one I started, I was 27, and I thought I could blow it up and become a millionaire overnight. I was going to be the next Steve Jobs, and everybody wants to be Steve Jobs. And on that note, actually, I'm gonna put a caveat here. I think I've tried to build a unicorn. You guys know what a unicorn is? Who knows what a unicorn is? Not the mythical animal, but in terms of startups. Who knows what a unicorn is? Sam? A unique business, a little more. Tuck numbers. $1 billion valuation. That's typically classified as a unicorn business or unicorn startup. So if you're a unicorn, you're valued at $1 billion or more because they're so rare. I mean, you hear about them all the time. Qualtrics and all these other software companies up north, or there's a few down in St. George. Just in the state of Utah, we're pumping out a lot of unicorns because you hear about them all the time. So you don't think they're that rare, but they're very, very rare, right? You're more likely to fail in your business ventures than succeed, okay? So with that said, keep this in mind. And this is probably the most important thing I want you to take away from this whole shindig today is unicorns aren't real. They don't exist. They're totally mythical. If you get to $1 billion valuation, fantastic. I will kneel at your feet and applaud you all day. Totally fine. What is real is a camel, because a camel can cross a desert with no water. So your company should be building a camel. What happens when the next COVID hits or the next financial crisis hits? Is your business going to survive those moments? Can your business survive COVID? I don't know. Is it a camel? Can it cross the desert with no water? That's what I'm getting at. Okay? Unicorns aren't real. I'm a realist, a recovering realist, if you will. So don't build a unicorn, build a camel. Now, where I was going with that, entrepreneur. It's okay to dream big, but what is an entrepreneur? What's innovation? What does that mean? I started a business. My first business was a software business. It failed miserably. I was young, and I thought I could do it all myself. Didn't build the right team. A lot of externalities, yada, yada, yada. But I now focus on building a service-based business. And why is that? Because I have learned, now I'm not trying to turn you away. I've been an investor in private equity, venture capital, family offices. I know how that world works really well. We're always looking for deal flow. So if you've got a business idea and you need venture capital up front, happy to help you. Happy to talk to you about that. But my first advice would be right out of college, if you can avoid building a business that is capital intensive up front, do it. Build a business that's going to cash flow from day one, and that cash flow can accumulate over time to where then you can commoditize your services. Who knows what I'm talking about? Anyone want to kind of regurgitate that in very simple, plain English? Go ahead.
We basically low risk, high reward are big things because first off, you don't even know if your business is going to succeed. So instead of wasting a lot of money up front on an idea that you think is perfect or flawless, come to find out nobody wants it. So it's good to have a business that you can start having orders or profit immediately because then as that grows, that's how you can know your business is going to be successful.
I like it. I like where you're going with that. Still product focused right out of the gate, right? What's a service? Yell out a service. Lawn mowing. Still requires some capital, right? You need a lawnmower. That's okay. It's cheap. Sorry? Cleaning windows. Still needs some materials, but it's affordable, right? Marketing. Elaborate. Okay. Still probably want to buy us some platforms and some subscriptions, right, for SEO or whatever. Maybe you need some back-end work. But the creative, copywriting, graphic design, right? Those are services. Lawyers, accountants, those are services, right? What are other services? Low cost of capital, low barriers to entry. Start a coffee shop if you wanted to. That's pretty easy, right? Babysitting. That's great. That's great. Right. There's some trust there you have to build with the parents first. Can I trust you with my kids? Okay. All right. All right. I can trust you because you're selling fertilizer from sheep wool. I can trust you. That's pretty impressive. Anyway, so point is, service-based businesses are easier to get into because there's a lower barrier to entry, lower cost of capital, and lower capital requirements. Capital meaning what? Don't be bashful. Come on, guys. Capital meaning money. In this situation, financial capital. There's other kinds of capital. What are the other kinds of capital? Real quick, throw it out there. What am I? I'm a human, right? Human capital, labor, right? That's another type of capital. Financial capital. Okay, so a service-based business doesn't require a whole lot of capital up front. You got yourself, your knowledge, then maybe you spend $500 buying a lawnmower, and you go out knocking doors, say, I'm going to mow your lawn for $20 a week. That's a good start. What's that? What is that doing? Who knows what cash flow is? What's the differences between cash flow and revenue? Who can tell me? Corporate finance, accounting. Who knows what cash flow and profit the differences are? Anybody? Who are the finance guys that raised their hand like 20 minutes ago? Money coming in, cash flow. It's flowing in and it's flowing out, right? Cash inflow, cash outflows. Okay? Were you raising your hand? Did you say something similar to that? Okay, we're right. Got you. Both get credit. Okay? Those service-based businesses, Russ went knocking doors. He got 5 people at $20 a week, $100. Okay, that's great. That's cash flow, money coming in. Then you start breaking it down. How much does he need to pay back the lawnmower expenses? How much does he need for his own operations, his own overhead? What's he want to pay himself? Yada, yada, yada. You get it. We'll leave the nuance to your finance professors. But that's instant cash flow. Okay, and what's left over if you don't owe anything, it's revenue and or profit. Okay, profit. You can build on that. You can continue to build on that. Now, who knows what a J curve is? Who wants to come draw a J curve? Anyone heard of a J curve? Come on, guys. This is basic stuff. Come draw a J curve. Give me what you think it would look like on that graph. You got this, Spence. Come on. Just draw what you think a J curve would look like. Now, J curve has to do typically with sales, okay? Sales and or some finance. What does a J curve look like? That looks like the bond market from yesterday, but I'll take it. I'll take it. Who else wants to try? Not quite, but thank you. Way to be vulnerable. Come on up. The vulnerability matters, you guys. That's really, thank you. Close. What's a J curve? Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. What was your name?
Keenan.
Keenan. Thank you. Keenan drew a great J curve. It is what it is. What is what it sounds like? Does that look like a J? If I'm condescending, it's probably because I am. I'm sorry. You know, it's more for fun. I got to wake you guys up. I'll condescend you a little bit, but not too much. Okay, so a J curve. What does this mean, Keenan? What is it telling us? What is the graph showing us? So if this is time and this is money, okay? So typical venture capitalists, probably 10 years or more ago, want to see a J curve as sharp as possible because they need to make a return on their investment, right? I'm giving you money. I need to make that money back. So I want to see you get to sales and growth and scalability as fast as possible. That's a J curve. With services, do you think it's still possible to J curve? Who thinks it's still possible to J curve on a service? You're probably right. Okay, maybe there's a few hands up. It's more likely to be like this. Okay, it's accretive, meaning it's always going up. You guys seen the stock market graphs? Very similar to what Spence drew. You know, sometimes it dips down. These dips, they're accretive, so over time it still goes up, even though it dips once in a while. Okay, but look, this is more of a service if you're really good. Sometimes it's even just down here. It doesn't grow tremendously fast. Services are not typically scalable. But what's the importance and the benefit and the competitive advantage of a service? Cash flow. Cash. Cash will always be king, okay? Money, cash in particular. Not credit, not AR. What's AR? Accounts receivable, okay? Could be like a net 30. You may not have cash right away. You might have to wait 30 days. If they can get cash right away in hand, Russ mows the lawn, I pay him 20 bucks, cash in hand, 20 bucks. That's great. I want to do that as much as possible and repeat that over time. So with a startup, it's best to get to this point. Where's the inflection point? If a startup or a service, your service startup, let's put it that way, it's hard to scale a service. Where do you reach that inflection point of, I want to grow now. Now I want to hit that camel status. I've offered this much in services. I've tested my hypotheses. I know this one works. So I've got my effectual reasoning down. I understand the jobs to be done. I know who my target market is. I know who I'm serving. Now how do I get to a causal scalability and growth phase? Where do I go from here? What's the inflection point? What do you think you're going to look for? Bingo. Gosh, who said that? Oh, man, your wool business is going to be great. I can already tell. It's going to be awesome. Okay, so the dilemma of services is that it doesn't scale, right? You've got these projects coming in. It's going to make you money, but your quality is going to go down because your bandwidth is limited. I can't take on, Russ himself can't mow 100 lawns in 1 week. Can you? I mean, I don't know. Okay, I didn't think so. It's getting older now, so knee hurts, your hip hurts. I can't bend over, put it in the garbage sack. Anyway, you can't do 100 lawns by yourself. So the quality dips. you reach that inflection point right here. You realize, I've got to hire more people. And when I hire more people, this is where economics really starts to sink in. This is what kind of capital now? Talked about it a second ago. Labor. Labor is what? Human capital, right? Okay, so you start hiring people, and how long does that take that one person to ramp up, to catch up to your expertise? Could take months. So you're going to dip in quality still until he ramps up, or she, okay? So think about that. So at that point, you're going to start to see in your spreadsheets when to start productizing your service. Let's turn it into a product now. We've got a service. What do we need to do to productize that? Because a product can scale. You start with channel distribution, retail. You can go direct to consumer. There's all sorts of e-commerce options for products, right? So it's a little bit easier to scale with products. Then you start hitting that J curve from right here. Boom. Okay, because your sales start to explode. As long as you keep your costs low, obviously, right? But this isn't a finance lesson. The whole point of this, and I think we're going to end on this, right? 5 minutes, perfect timing. Okay. Whole reason to talk about that is because I didn't understand any of this when I was your age. And I launched my first business and it failed miserably. And I can tell you what, I hustled my tail off. I got Red Bull, I got New Schoolers. I was pitching at every ski premiere, every snowboard premiere. We had OGO sponsoring us. We had all sorts of big Fortune 500 brands backing us. And it still fell in its face. Because I didn't understand this. I didn't understand the risk. Because like I have a huge appetite for risk. Great, that's number one. I hope you have an appetite for risk because it is risky, okay? More often than not, you will fail your business. You have to have an appetite for risk. And it's how you respond to the failures that determines what kind of founder you're going to be. Now, remember, innovation, startups, it's not all just big tech firms. It could be an HVAC company. Maybe there's hard water in central Utah, and you start a water softening company that is needed. That's innovation. That's a startup. Okay? Doesn't have to be a tech firm every single time. So keep that in mind. Now, I got cotton mouth. Whew. Anyway, sorry. So I'm on my, excuse me, fifth business, I think, fifth idea. 3 have failed. So just keep that in mind. 3 have failed. And I'm a seasoned, I guess I could maybe air quotes here, seasoned entrepreneur, okay? 3 of 5 have failed. 1 is broken even. 1 is still going. So keep that in mind. You're not always going to hit it right out of the park your first go. It comes down to timing, preparation, and understanding all of these things. But if you have all this knowledge and understanding of all these frameworks, and it's still bad timing, sorry guys, it's gonna most likely fail. That's the way it is. So you have to hit it right. But what is luck? Anybody know what luck is? Come on, this is so cliche, but you gotta know it. What's luck? Preparation and opportunity, hard work, maybe, right? Okay, all mixed into one. You kind of make your own luck. I don't always buy that, but it can be true. It can be true, but I've also seen it not be true. So I would just warn you guys to be slightly cynical, but remain optimistic. Okay, a cynical realist is what I call myself. I think it's probably the best way to go about approaching building a business. Just know that you have to be prepared and understand the frameworks, understand how to build a business, get to cash as soon as possible, scale the business with a product. So make sure you understand the timing and the rate of adoption. Are your people, your customers, willing to make or pay for your product or service? That's it. That's the magic to building a company. That's the formula, more or less, very high level. But any last questions before we kind of wrap this up? Anybody? Going international, I think back to World Trade Center, Utah, this last plug-in, that's a whole other beast. A whole other beast. Don't even think about international until you are actually dominating your market domestically. When you have over $1 million in revenue per year, then come talk to me for new markets. Okay, that's maybe my rule of thumb. Any no other questions? Okay, thanks. Oh, Russ, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't really follow. Can you briefly explain what is the venture capital model? We haven't really talked about that much.
It really depends. He's asking what the venture capital model is. Depends on the venture capitalist. I'm early stage. I work with typically angel investors, family offices that are very early stage, very risky businesses. It just really depends on what the thesis is. So if my thesis is, I try to only do and invest in companies I understand. Yours is intriguing. I don't understand it though. It's not a world I'm familiar with. So I personally most likely would not invest unless you can dumb it down for me to understand and get on your level, right? But tech or geopolitics, I could get behind pretty easily. So that's number one. What is the thesis? Understanding their thesis. What do they invest in? What are the portfolio companies like? Go do due diligence on their portcos, all the companies they've invested in prior, and then understand what their investment amount is. What do they typically write a check? What's the check size? 500,000, a million, 100,000? What? I would typically avoid capital up front if you can, but if you have a rich uncle that wants to write you a check, take it. But make sure they're accredited, okay? Don't take money from your grandma. Other questions? Okay, cool. Thanks. Thanks, you guys.